It's for the Cycling Podcast. Yeah.
Okay, I listened to it.
Oh, good. Okay. How are you feeling ahead of today? Your form coming into the race should give others, I guess, cause for concern. How do you feel?
It was so special to win after 8 years another Spring Classic. After Tour of Flanders was my last Spring Classic victory. Then win the Strade Bianche gives me some confidence that I'm slightly better than other years. So I'm here with confidence and excited, and also with a really good team, so that will also help.
And it must give you confidence as well, given how last season finished. I mean, you must feel psychologically really pumped for this race.
Yeah, but also I had a really bad injury last year, so that made me nervous, like will I ever be back at my level? So in that way, the win in Strade Bianche was super nice for myself. I worked so hard to be back at my level, and that it came already so early. It was a big surprise for me, and now I can just enjoy the spring.
Are you fully recovered?
Yeah, I'm fully recovered on the bike. Walking is still a little bit, I feel it a little bit. So, but on the bike I don't feel anything.
How are you feeling ahead of today?
I'm excited. You know, we got a good plan and we're ready to go into battle, as they say.
What can you tell us about that plan? Anything?
It's too many years around here, but you know, definitely strength in numbers is the goal. So that's what we plan to do. And yeah, when the business happens, we want to be the business.
And it looks like it's going to be a dry day, quite warm by Flanders standards. How will that affect the race?
I think it could mean there's a bigger bunch coming to the more critical points, for sure, because, you know, like when we see good weather, more people can stay for longer within the race, first when you have the really bad conditions. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be a super hard race, but we can enjoy the summer, because, you know, for Belgians and Brits and all the Northern Hemisphere light, this is a summer day.
I know I'm going to lose my coat and everything.
I know, but it's a winter's day for Australians, so for us it's just comfortable.
So that's it. The Tour of Flanders 2019 is underway. Well, the fans have dispersed around the main square of Oudenaarde, many enjoying a morning beer to limber up for the day. The terraces are getting packed already. They're crowding around the main screen, and it looks like a DJ is getting ready to hopefully blast out some raucous Europop for the afternoon. A fine day for the fans. Not all the riders will be overly content with the mild weather, though. The early mist has already burnt through. I've ditched my duvet coat, may even lose a jumper before too long. This isn't going to be the muckiest edition of the Tour of Flanders, but it's Flanders nonetheless. It's not going to be easy.
You're listening to the Cycling Podcast Féminin in association with Rapha, the fastest clothing in the World Tour, the home of cycling with character. Ride and watch with Rapha in 2019 as they partner EF Education First and Canyon SRAM.
Hello, my name's Richard Moore. I'm with Orla Chennaoui.
Hello.
And Rose Manley.
Hello.
And we were played in at the start there by, well, we heard from friend of the podcast, Annemiek van Vleuten, and a bit from Tiffany Cromwell as well. You spoke to them at the start, Orla. You made it to the start. I didn't quite make it.
I made it to the start line, Richard. I did indeed. We had arranged to be here at about 10 o'clock. One of us got here, one of us didn't. Annemiek was looking really relaxed, I thought, in the start line. She was very smiley, chatting away to people on the other side of the barriers. I think she's probably fairly quietly confident. I mean, she did say that she'll be happy enough just to race now, that she's got a spring win under her belt for the first time since 2011, remarkably. But, you know, whenever she showed the form that she did at Strade Bianche, I think that the rest of the peloton will be very nervous about her today.
She, your tip as well, Rose? We've just seen the leaders have come through Oudenaarde here, 3.5 minutes ahead of the bunch. A couple of crashes already. Corn Rivera fell quite heavily on the cobbles, and there was a crash involving 3 Bulls Dolmans riders. Chrissy Majerus, who has recovered and was at the front of the bunch there. Amelie de Derrickson and Jip van den Bosch, who we heard from in the last episode of the Cycling Podcast Féminin. They were all down there. What are you thinking, Annemiek van Vleuten, today?
I don't know. It's hard to see past Annemiek because she's been, you know, so strong, and she is not a defending champ, but she is a former champ at this race. Before, she's actually had her complete change where she became more of a climber than an all-rounder. But what is remarkable about this race is that there's something like 6 former champions at the start line today, and I don't think anyone has won this race twice in a row since like 2006 or something, you know, crazy, where, you know, the course was very different. So I think that kind of plays it. I'm being very careful here not to say anyone. aren't I, Richard? Basically.
Well, it's certainly not going to be defending champ because Anna van der Breggen won last year, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she's not here at all this year. And, well, we'll hear in the news roundup in a moment, Orla, I think, what's been happening in the recent races, because this podcast will sort of unfold as the Tour of Flanders unfolds over the next few hours.
It will indeed. Live corrections corner, though. 5 former winners racing today. We've got Corin Rivera, Elisa Longo-Borghini, Ellen van Dijk, Marianne Vos and Annemiek van Vleuten. And I think Marianne Vos is worth a mention as well, because she already has a win under her belt and she hasn't done that. She hasn't won this early in the season since she last won the Tour of Flanders, so that maybe is a bit of a sign of early form for her as well. She had her typical game face on earlier, head down, looking really concentrated, not being distracted, no smiles like Annemiek. So maybe you never know, Marianne Vos tonight.
Shall we have a news roundup? I've been at a couple of races recently. I was at the 1 day, 3 days of Japan and the and Gent-Wevelgem, and we'll hear a couple of interviews from those races after we've had the news roundup.
Yeah, and I apologise in advance for how I'm going to pronounce the 3 days Japan, because I'm going to say once you know how to pronounce it, you can't not pronounce it that way, and then I'm going to get it massively wrong. But anyway, I'll just bum my way through it.
Don't worry, the pronunciation police are on hand.
Yeah, but they don't get the Dutch. So.
They're actually very near where we are, the pronunciation police.
Well, that's one of the blind spots for pronunciation police, is it not? Dutch. That'll be my particular area of, that'll be my beat, shall we say. Right, anyway, so we had Ronde van Drenthe. That was since the last podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Marta Bastianelli won that for Team Virtue Cycling. She beat Chantal Blaak of Boels Dolmans and Ellen van Dijk of Trek Segafredo in a 3-way sprint. Now, there was a bit of a fuss afterwards with a seemingly heated discussion between Bastianelli and Blaak. I don't know if this was reported elsewhere, but I read in the Dutch media that Blaak had said that Bastianelli told her on the way in that she would be happy with a podium spot, but then she went and sprinted to the line, swerving across Blaak as she did so hence the cross words. Blaak was quoted in Dutch media as saying, excuse me here, but vertrouwen nooit een Italiaan. Never trust an Italian, she said. I know, but she said she was happy with the result nonetheless. Yeah, she sounded it. Anyway, Trofeo Binda Marianne Vos, that was the win I was talking about. She got a record equaling 4th win there, now joint with Maria Cannons. Vos's first win here since 2012 and her first win in 2009 just highlights how long she's been at the top of her game. Very encouraging, I think, to see the teamwork between her and Ashley Millman-Passio as well. Vos beat Amanda Spratt of Mitchelton Scott and Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig of Bigla. Dries Dagen de Panne, Kirsten Wild of...
You are the pronunciation police, though, Orla, now. So.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, Kirsten Wild of WNT Rotor moved from a hugely successful track season to doing more of the same on the road. I should actually say Dries Dagen Brugge de Panne, shouldn't I? Anyway, strong.
I was thinking that.
And she beat the young, promising Dutch rider Lorena Wiebes of Park Hotel Valkenburg, who herself had won Nocera Corsa a few weeks earlier, and Lotte Kopecky of Lotto Soudal in 3rd. Now, a bit of a fuss in this race as well. I'm sure you all saw this in social media. Elisa Longo-Borghini picked up Lizzie Banks of Bigla's bike after a crash and chucked it across the road. Longo-Borghini and Banks crashed about 35k from the finish. Banks went straight over the handlebars with her bike flying into Longo-Borghini, taking the Italian out. Now, Longo-Borghini untangled the two bikes, and when she did, she threw Banks's bike away, but she threw it on the other side of the road to where Banks was still lying. Banks did get on a spare bike but didn't finish the race, and Longo-Borghini apologised to both of them, both the rider and to Bigla afterwards. We had a little bit of a discussion on WhatsApp, didn't we, as to whether we thought that was worthy of an apology. I think I would do the same, sorry.
I agree with all. I mean, I do that pretty much every time I take my bike back into the shed. I pretty much do that with my boyfriend's bike. I mean, and that's not even an adrenaline pumping situation. That's me just getting really frustrated. So I would do the same, I think.
I'm not sure we can condone bike tossing. I think it could be an interesting feature for a TV programme or something. Just a decent idea. But
like tossing the caber.
It was clearly emotions were running high, but you can't, because these bikes cost a lot of money.
No, of course you can't. Yeah. Of course you can't, and we're not condoning it. I'm saying I understand it though, and I do think we sanitise it a little bit by always insisting straight away an apology and always saying that's a terrible thing to do, as if these riders are thinking logically at the time. They've got their game head on, their race head on, adrenaline is pumping, and I would do the same, but then obviously I would apologise for it afterwards. But I wouldn't get in that position in the first place because I would be a bit rubbish. Anyway, on to Gent-Wevelgem. Kirsten Wild making it 2 in a row in a mass sprint, with Lorena Wiebes again taking second place, and Letitia Paternoster of Trek Segafredo in third. Dwars door Vlaanderen. Ellen van Dijk of Trek Segafredo defended her title successfully there, repeating her victory from a year ago. The Dutch time trial specialist made her move with less than 15k to go, holding off a chase group to take a solo win ahead of Marta Bastianelli of Virtue Cycling and Lucinda Brand of Sunweb. Now, once again, the men's and women's races on the same course led to race neutralisation, this time because of a number of crashes in the women's race, meaning that ambulances had to come up the road through the races, and the men's race was stopped not once but twice. Now, this time the men's race followed the fastest predicted time schedule, but the women's race had set off earlier than the men's, but was well behind the slowest predicted time, and there had been a delayed start to the women's race and a crash in the neutralised zone, so the bunch waited for the restart, and then by the time we had the crashes which needed medical attention, both races were on the course at the same time. So again, it's swings and roundabouts as to whether these races happen on the same day. In other news, cyclocross standout star Denise Bitsema of Marlux Benguel has been provisionally suspended following an adverse analytical finding for a prohibited anabolic substance. So bad news there. The positive control sample was taken at a World Cup in January, where she placed 7th. So she is out. That's my news roundup.
Can I add one little thing to the news roundup, Orla?
Do we need bagpipes?
Maybe bagpipes. We're speaking of a weekend where the Youth Tour of Scotland is underway, and I was what? No, I just. Oh, come on! I was. Don't patronise us, please, ladies. I was very impressed by some of the images on social media from that race. There's boys and girls races. When I think back to schoolboy, schoolgirl racing, well, there was no schoolgirl racing when I was a schoolboy. There were no young female riders, and there were very few young male riders. There, they've got full fields, 80 riders in each race, in the female youth and in the male youth, and I just think that's very, very impressive, and I applaud Scottish cycling for putting on such a great event. Actual proper teams in the girls' race, and it's great to see, and I'll be following what happens there with great interest.
The fastest clothing in the World Tour, the home of cycling with character. Ride and watch with Rapha in 2019 as they partner EF Education First and Canyon SRAM.
I think our Rapha bib shorts are one of the most important items of clothing we get. It's the main point of contact with the bike, and you spend hours and hours riding your bike, so you need to be comfortable and have the support that you get from them. Hi, I'm Alice Barnes and I race for Canyon SRAM Racing. I think the Rapha bib shorts are the best in the world.
Thank you very much to our headline sponsor, Rapha, and I must mention the new core collection, which is just launched or just about to launch, including the bib shorts, the cargo bib shorts in particular. I have a pair of these. They have pockets down the side of the leg. They started off introducing these with the Explorer collection, which is more kind of endurance riding, backpacking, but they've added the pockets to a lot of their bib shorts, Rapha, and they're very nice. You can put a gel in there, even a phone, dare I say it. Check them out. So the core bib shorts have been given full mark reviews by Road CC, Cyclist Magazine, Velo News, Road Cycling and more. Find out more about these bib shorts at rapha.cc. Thanks very much again to Rapha for being our headline sponsor at the Cycling Podcast Féminin. Now, thanks for that comprehensive as ever news roundup. Orla, there has been a lot of racing. And I was at De Pan and at Gent-Wevelgem, and I spoke at De Pan to Lisa Brennauer, who has moved over to WNT, where she led out Kirsten Wild very well in De Pan to win there, and Kirsten Wild won a few days later, of course, in Gent-Wevelgem as well. But I asked Lisa Brennauer, who's been in a couple of very big teams in the past, what it's been like going to a team that's really developing. It has in Wild and Brennauer two big stars, but a lot of very young and inexperienced riders as well. So I found out how she's settling into what is her home team from her hometown of Kempten in Germany, very close to the Austrian border.
Good to see you again.
Enjoying racing with your A team that must feel like almost like sort of coming home in a way.
Yeah, we spoke about it last year, and I feel good in the team. And I mean, obviously we had Kirsten here, so it was good for us that it came down to a bunch sprint. And we tried to work as well as we could together as a team. And I tried to help in the final and did the lead out. But I also got really blocked in a bit, and she had to do a lot by herself. But she's a fantastic sprinter, so great victory for her.
It must be satisfying being part of a team that's kind of on the up and being part of a success like that today.
Yeah, of course. I think now with the lineup this year, the team has really made a big step forward. So it's nice to see this already in Valencia, where the team had the overall victory. It was so great to see, and it's really great for me to be part of this team. And I had a connection to the team already for the past years, and now to be part of it and to be part of a big development is really something that I like and that I feel really happy and good with.
Maybe more than teams you've been on in the past, there's a real mix in this team of inexperienced riders, developing riders, and experienced riders like yourself and Kirsten. Does that give you a sort of mentoring role in the team? Is that something you enjoy?
For sure. I mean, I'm not there to be the teacher or something, but people ask me for advice, and they are really willing to learn, and also some of them are looking up and asking for advice. And I like to be, to have kind of different roles. Like sometimes I'm the leader, sometimes I'm captain on the road, but not necessarily the leader that we race for. But also there will be lots of possibilities for being a domestic rider for the climbers as well. And I like to share knowledge and like to be part of a development, and this team gives me this opportunity, and I like to really be part of it.
What's the big target for you this year personally?
I think it's a really important year. The year before the Olympics is always a year you want to show and do well and try to pre-nominate yourself. So national championships is a big target, but still one on my bucket list is a one-day race. I haven't really won a big one-day race, so this would be really great for me. And World Championships in Yorkshire. I'm gonna go for the Tour to Yorkshire again and watch some of the circuits. So it's a big year ahead, and lots of opportunities to show and to do good races. And I'm back where I really enjoy racing and not only focus on always trying to win, but I really found back to the point where I just love this sport, and I think that's I forgot to appreciate actually what we do, and I'm really happy that this is back.
I also spoke at the finish to Annemiek Derrickson, who looked in really good position to win in Japan. She's a good sprinter, of course, former world champion. In Qatar she won the world championship, but she's part of a team, Boels Dolmans, that's not had a great start to the season for them, really finding the challenge of other teams having stepped up quite difficult. I spoke to her at the finish. She faded in the sprint, went a bit too early. Here's what she had to say. You looked like you were in a good position, but what happened in the end there?
I was in a good position, just a bit too early. I had to open around 300 meters to go, and it was just too far. And I unfortunately couldn't keep it to the end. I feel my shape is good, and I felt I had something, but it got a bit too long for me, unfortunately.
Was that just a mistake on your part?
I think
circumstances.
Yeah, it's hard to do sprinting after a whole checklist. We tried our best, and sometimes you just hit the front a bit too early. Sometimes, otherwise you get swamped. So I had to open and then try to keep it at least. But
Kirsten Wild's a pretty tough opponent, isn't she?
Yeah, she's fast. She's proven that a ton of times. So she's really good at the moment also, has been good at the track. We'll try to beat her in the coming races.
And what about for the team? How it's unusual that Boels Dolmans go a few races without a win at the Women's World Tour races. What's that experience like for you guys?
It's always nice winning, but I think the level in women's cycling is racing all the time, and the teams are getting more and more even, which makes some really good and exciting races. and makes it even fun to win when you nail it. We'll try to get back on the top spot soon.
It does seem like there's quite an even spread now of top riders in quite a few different teams. Is that really apparent to you this year as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good sign. It's also like a few years ago, a lot of teams would just look at us if there's a breakaway gone, but now it's more even, and I think that's good for women's cycling.
That was Annemiek Derrickson, who's been on the road already today at the Tour of Flanders, but is back up and riding again, and we'll be hoping for better luck today as an ambulance drives past. I also spoke at the finish at Gent-Wevelgem a few days later, where, as I say, Kirsten Wild won once again, to Cecilie, Uttrup, Ludwig, who had ridden extremely well at Binda, finishing third there in quite a big sprint, which I don't think was a finish that really suited her. But on the climb, she was really doing what Kasia Niewiadoma did last year successfully, trying to break the riders behind her. Didn't quite manage that, but rode extremely well, looks great form. So I spoke to her in Wevelgem, and here's what she had to say, the young Danish rider who's now leading Bigla. Cecilie, maybe not the perfect race for you today in terms of the course and the way that race is ridden. How are you doing? You were riding very well last week at Binda. How's the form?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good at the moment. Have good confidence, and yeah, I mean, it was fun racing today. You know, Gent-Wevelgem is always, unpredictable, and it depends a lot on the weather. And we knew, the strong winds would make a difference. And from Ypres and to here, it was just one line and just attack, counter-attack, and which we actually also expected. So a super, super hard race, lots of crashes. So it's nice being back in Belgium again. It's like it's chaos, but yeah, it was good fun, and we tried at the end to put Julie in a good position, and then yeah, actually I'm not sure how it went, but
no, it was pretty much a blanket finish there. It was I don't know if it was a headwind maybe at the finish, but you spent a lot of the winter, it seems, in Gran Canaria and training. Were you staying at altitude there, or just really using the kind of warm weather there to train?
I just used the warm weather. I mean, I actually like Gran Canaria. Sometimes, you do many of the same roads, but it's perfect because for sure it's stable weather. It's always 20 degrees, sunshine. So yeah, Gran Canaria is always a winner in January.
So you've come back obviously in good shape. I mentioned Binda, you rode very aggressively there. What's it been like for you with Ashley having moved on? You're really the sort of figurehead, the leader of your team. How's that felt? Does that increased responsibility excite you?
Extremely. I mean, how lucky am I to be 23-year-old and leading a team? I feel responsibility, but the thing is, you also grow with the task, and I feel like I still have a lot to learn, but I also have something to give, and I feel that we have a super young new team, but everybody's so keen to learn, and everybody's so passionate, so it's extremely joyful to work with them, and yeah, I mean, I just enjoy it, and I feel really fortunate to have this role.
And just finally, what are the races coming up that you're most looking forward to? Is it Liège-Bastogne-Liège or one of those sorts of races?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have the Flanders at Sunday. It's a super special race, and it's a mini World Championships. And the Belgians, they go crazy, and I love it. And then we have the Ardennes week that I'm looking really forward to.
Maybe Flash Wallon for you.
Yeah, could be.
So that was Cecilie, Uttrup, Ludwig. Look out for her today as well, I think. And the final interview of these that I gathered at these two races was with Loretta Phoebus, who you have been tweeting about, Rose. You've marked her card.
Yeah, her card is definitely marked. I've been watching out for her because she's a former junior European champ, and she's a former junior Dutch champ. And obviously, Orla has been saying recently about the skill and the level that comes out of the Netherlands. You've got to watch out for a junior Dutch champ because they're bound to have beaten a lot of other very skillful riders for that title. She's having a bit of a breakthrough year, I think. I mean, that's why I tweeted. But so I've got proof that I did think that before, that she started doing really well. But yeah, at the Nokere-Koerse, she won that this year, which obviously it was not a women's world tour, so it's not necessarily the highest level. At De Panne, then she got a second place there, and that is women's world tour level, so that is the very top level you can get in women's racing. And then again, podium again at Ghent-Wevelgem.
Well, here's what she had to say after finishing second at Ghent-Wevelgem. Well, 2 seconds in these last 2 races. How do you feel about that?
I'm happy with the results, and the team did an amazing job today. I had a bike change the last 10k, and the team brought me back very good. And Demi was there for me in the sprint, so good teamwork today.
Have you surprised yourself to be so competitive against riders who are much more experienced and older than you?
I hoped for it, but I never thought it was like the.
You must feel that a big win is within reach now.
Yeah, I hope one wants to win the World Tour. So.
Today in the sprint day, how you had that bad luck in the finish, but how did you feel you compared with Kirsten Wild? Did you think she's somebody I can beat in the future?
Maybe in the future, but now she's too strong, I think. So.
And I notice you're contracted to Park Hotel for quite a long time. You signed up for the next couple of years. So are you happy with that team and that you'll be able to develop in that team?
Yes, the team became a lot stronger this year. So I'm happy for the contract for that one.
No doubt there'll be other teams looking at you as well.
Yeah, but Park Hotel is a Dutch team, and that's I like that maybe a little bit more or something. So there's a lot of fun in the team, so that's good.
And now you're leading young rider in the Women's World Tour as well.
Yes, that's also really nice.
So that was Loretta Phoebus. Look out for her. She's a young talent, and she's, as we mentioned there, contracted to Park Hotel up for another couple of years. So that suggests that team is maybe developing a little bit. They've certainly invested in that young talent for a while, or that she is developing faster than she expected. I don't know. I mean, she seems very happy there, she said, and settled there, and certainly no plans to move on. So we're watching the Tour of Flanders now. We were talking a little bit about her prospects and some of the other kind of sprinters, and you don't tend to think of them as being Tour of Flanders contenders, but as we said a couple of episodes ago, the Women's Tour of Flanders has often, not last year when Anna van der Breggen won on her own, but it's often ended up with quite a big group coming to the finish.
Yeah, I think when Corinne Rivera won, it was something like 17 riders all coming to the line at the same time. But it's just such an unpredictable race, because if you think that last year Van der Breggen won with just a solo break, and then the year before Rivera won with pretty much a reduced bunch sprint, and then the year before that it was like a 2-up sprint between Lizzie Dynan, or Lizzie Armitstead as she was, and Emma Johansson. So it really throws up a lot of different results. So it's dry at the moment, but it has rained today. There are supposed to be some really strong crosswinds out on the course, so it could go anywhere.
Yeah, you would imagine with that kind of weather, it is very mild, it's warm, you'd imagine that we would get a bigger bunch getting to the finish line altogether. But we have already seen some nervy crashes because it is the Tour of Flanders, it's still on cobbles. We don't need wet roads for riders to be coming down. It's as unpredictable as ever, really.
Chute à l'arrière du peloton, Cycling Podcast team car at the back of the pack, please.
Interrupting the Cycling Podcast Féminin is Seb Piquet, the voice of race radio at the Tour de France, of course, and that's to remind us to tell you that this month's episode is sponsored by Laka Bike Insurance. It's a smarter way of insuring your bikes and gear. It's a community of cyclists joining together to play fair and take good care to save each other money. Laka covers all the basics: theft, accidental loss and damage, both at home and abroad. It also covers you in sportives and races, as long as you're not riding in the pro peloton, which you're probably not. Instead of charging you a fixed premium, you only pay a small share of the community's claims cost. Your share is proportionate to how much you insure with Laka. While your share can theoretically go down to zero if there are no claims in a month, Laka also locks in a maximum price to make sure there are no nasty surprises, even in months with lots of claims. Claims are accepted fast, usually within a day. If you're new to Laka, you can get a £10 credit by signing up today with the discount code PODCAST. Don't think I have to spell that. Podcast. So if you want to find out more about Laka, go to laka.co.uk. That's laka.co.uk. I'm a Laka customer. I bought a new bike recently and signed up for Laka.
I need to look into it actually, because we're growing our bike collection as a family. We're now a no car family. We've just got bikes. So I need to look into that. We've got one of the typical Dutch family wagons now. You know, the ones with the bucket in the front. And I've got a little maxi cozy. What do you call it? What do you call it? Like a.
I don't know.
Like
You're demonstrating something with your hand, but I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I've got a little fixed point.
It's a hand bike.
A little fixed point where you can put a baby seat in the front of the bucket. So you stick all your children in the front of the family
All
wagon.
of them?
Well, I've only got 2, but one of them's not even 3 months old yet, and you put him in the bike.
Can you put your husband in there as well?
He wouldn't fit, I don't think, not with the 2 children.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they insure babies, but they certainly insure my bike, and so far
I don't leave my baby in the streets at night, so I think it should be okay.
Also sponsoring the Cycling Podcast Féminin this month is the London to Brighton bike ride. The London to Brighton charity bike ride is in its 44th year, and it raises money for the British Heart Foundation's research into heart and circulatory diseases, which are responsible for 1 in 4 deaths in the UK. So it's for a great cause. The ride is 54 miles long, 17 miles of which are on completely closed roads, and it goes over Ditchling Beacon, which was ridden by the Tour de France peloton in the 1994 race. The ride finishes on the beach where you can get a drink and something to eat. All podcast listeners can get £5 off the entry fee by going to bhf.org.uk/L2B. That's L, the number 2 and the letter B, 2019. And entering the code Brighton5, bhf.org.uk/L2B2019. You can also sponsor the Cycling Podcast team, of which I will be a member, and so will you, Rose.
Yes, I will. I'm very excited about it, actually. I've never done it before.
Well, go to justgiving.com/the-cycling-podcast, and we're raising money there for the British Heart Foundation. A great cause. It's a great ride, a real institution, and first time I'll have done it, so we've got quite a big team. Lionel Burney's taking part as well, the Lion of the Chilterns, and various of our producers and other members of our team. But thanks very much to London Brighton Charity Bike Ride and the British Heart Foundation for supporting the Cycling Podcast Féminin. We do have to say a big thanks to all the sponsors of the Cycling Podcast Féminin, because it's thanks to their support that we're able to come to races like this and record against the backdrop of Europop. And we've got one final sponsor this month, and it's a familiar one, a regular one for the Cycling Podcast Féminin, Harry's Razors. And I believe, Rose, you've composed a haiku.
Well, I have composed a haiku, but it's only, you're going to have to do the blurb to start, because I've only done it based upon what you get in the set.
Okay.
And I've lost it. Hold on. Okay, no, I got it.
Well, as you know, ladies, I'm a big Harry's fan. I dilemma this morning when I got up. I thought, will I shave or won't I shave? And then I remembered that we had a Harry's ad, and I thought, I better shave. So I whipped out my silver Harry's razor. And what do you think? Pretty good.
It looks lovely, doesn't it?
It looks
very
lovely.
grateful to Harry's that you would have turned up unshaven otherwise.
Well, you interviewed Bob Jungels after the men's race, Orla. Who has the smoother face? Because I know you're a big Bob Jungels fan.
Sorry. It's got to be Bob, but you knew that anyway.
I think he's a Harry's razor user as well.
He looks like a Harry's razor.
He does look. He's got that look about him, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
He does. Anyway, it's a Harry's razor special set available to Cycling Podcast listeners for £3.95. All you have to do is go to harrys.com/cycling. Rose, what do you get with your Harry's set?
Well, here's my I have to admit, the rave music is not putting me in my most peaceful haiku mood. But this is a 3-stanza haiku. Enjoy. Close, comfortable shave. Heed this for weighted handle, ergonomic form. 5-blade precision with a lubricating strip with a trimmer blade. Shave gel that lather. Be peachy with TCP. Travel blade cover.
Is that? I didn't count the. I'm not sure if that was a haiku. Was that a haiku?
That was
qualify?
a 3-stanza haiku.
Okay, great.
Because it was 5 syllable, 7 syllable, 5 syllable on each.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't.
Don't diss the F.
Yeah,
no, I mean it sounded
I wrote
very
this
impressive.
in the press room.
It sounded
while
very
watching two races at the same time.
beautiful.
And then you try to bring her back down again.
No,
Yes.
any Japanese poetry experts out there who wish to take issue with Rose's haiku.
Take issue. They might say.
they might be full of praise.
I enjoyed it.
I have to admit, haikus are meant to be about nature and beauty. That's why I did put the peachy in. Because I thought peachy, but all the information was there, so you can't fault me.
I think it was beautiful.
If you want to look like Bob Jungels, get started shaving with Harry's today by claiming your trial set for just £3.95. Support the Cycling Podcast Féminin. Get your trial set delivered to you, including the razor handle, the 5-blade cartridge, the foaming shave gel, and the travel blade cover, as mentioned in Rose's haiku, by going to harrys.com/cycling. That's harrys.com/cycling. All right, we're in the decisive phases of the race now, folks. We've just been up the Oude Quaremont. We're heading towards the Paterberg. It's been a whittling down process. The group going from 40 to 30 to 20, but it's a small sort of 4 or 5 riders at the front now. Just as we head towards the Paterberg, Kasia Niewiadoma is there. She's been quite aggressive. Marta Bastianelli, Annemiek van Vleuten, and Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, who really forced that split. Ludwig was very, very strong there, and this is a 4-rider group going into the Paterberg. Perhaps the big surprise is that there's no Marianne Vos and no Boels Dolmans riders there either.
Oh, it looks like Vos has actually got a problem. She's putting her hand up in the air.
She has got a rear wheel puncture.
Oh yeah, she does. So that will be one of the reasons why she didn't make that group. But it's an interesting place to attack, because I think people always concentrate on the climbs and the cobbles, and that's the place where the race is going to be won. When actually, where this group of 4 or 5 riders has attacked was between the Quaremont and the Patersburg, and that is where Lizzie Dynan and Emma Johansson attacked a few years ago, where Lizzie Dynan went on to beat Johansson in a 2-up sprint at the end. So that is actually a crucial part of the race course that people don't necessarily think about.
We saw it in the men's race as well with Nicky Terpstra, who followed Vincenzo Nibali last year on one of these sort of false flats between the big climbs. That happens all the time in these races.
And you say no Boels Dolmans riders. I mean, we saw they were unlucky enough to have 3 riders down early in the race. Jip van den Bos, who abandoned, Amy Peters and Chantal Blaak was taken out in that. Christian Majerus nonetheless did an excellent job in the last 50k or so, doing her hard work for Chantal Blaak, but she doesn't seem to have made this decisive group. Well, she hasn't made the decisive group, and I'm not sure if you're not in that group whether you've got any chance at this stage.
So here we are in the square in Oudenaarde. The race has finished. It ended up with a 3-woman group. It looked like it was being caught, and I don't think there was too much hesitation in that group. It was Marta Bastianelli, Annemiek van Vleuten and Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig. Kasia Niewiadoma was dropped. But the group that was chasing behind got very close at one point. It got to about 10 seconds, and it did look as if it might come back, but it ultimately didn't. What was the top 10 in the end, Orla?
So the top 10 was Marta Bastianelli with the win, Annemiek van Vleuten in second, Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig in third. Then we had Sofia Bertet-Solo in fourth, Ellen van Dijk, Kasia Niewiadoma, Chantal Blaak, Lisa Brennauer, Lucinda Brand and Amy Peters rounding out the top 10.
Were we surprised at that? When that 3-woman group was clear, I think I said that I expected Van Vleuten to just ride away. She did attack a couple of times, but I don't know, they were strange attacks. She didn't give herself the best chance, I didn't think. She didn't sort of sit off the group and go, though they were obviously waiting for her to attack as well, so easier said than done. But Bastianelli was always the favourite for that sprint, wasn't she?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think by the time we got onto the Patersburg and could see how strong Bastianelli was on that climb, I mean, that for me would have been the last chance for anyone except Bastianelli to have won, because after that it's downhill and then it's flat, pretty much all flat, wide roads all the way to the finish. So I think if they hadn't have, and you could see right in that finishing sprint actually how easy it was for Marta Bastianelli, because Annemiek van Vleuten was going full out in the last kind of 100 metres, or maybe a bit more than that, and it just looked, Marta was just on her wheel looked like she took it very easily, and then as soon as she opened up her sprint, there was just no chance for anyone else to come back.
And I think Annemiek van Vleuten really knew that the game was up when she got to the top of the Paterberg and she hadn't managed to drop Bastianelli. It's funny because at the start of the race I was wondering what kind of a difference it would make for Anna van der Breggen not to be in the race, and I think that really went against Annemiek van Vleuten. She would have much preferred a much harder race, and that would have maybe been the case if van der Breggen had been there. And it's always a real curiosity, I think, of bike racing when riders talk about it not being hard enough to win. It's such a strange concept to people new to the sport, but certainly I think that was the case with Annemiek van Vleuten today. She needed it to be tougher, really. She needed more riders to be dropped along the way, but when you get to the finish line with Marta Bastianelli in a sprint, then that's very difficult to beat.
And the conditions were so mild as well that it wasn't that kind of attritional racing that we're used to seeing, and I don't think that it was. I know that a few times Canyon SRAM put the hammer down a bit. Tiff Cromwell made an attack that was brought in quite soon after. Then Kasia Niewiadoma went with like 27 kilometres to go, but it wasn't, I don't think, that kind of really hardly fought racing that we've come to expect from the women's peloton.
No, I mean, I was going to mischievously suggest that some races recently have been more entertaining because Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten have not been riding, because those two have been so dominant. I feel a bit bad making that comment now that I know that Annemiek van Vleuten actually listens to the podcast. So I'm not going to suggest that, but no, I mean, it probably wasn't the Annemiek van Vleuten that we maybe saw at Strade Bianche a few weeks ago. You know, she wasn't able to assert herself in the way that she was in that race, which on paper isn't as hard a race as Tour of Flanders. So I don't know what that says about her condition, but I spoke to Giorgia Bronzini afterwards, who's now the DS at Trek Segafredo, and I said, you know, what we're seeing quite interestingly is a real spread of wins by different riders and different teams. And she said, well, yeah, apart from Bastianelli, who's just been the revelation almost of this season. Now, you spoke to her, I think, at the finish, and her DS, Bjarne Riis, won. Bjarne Riis. Shall we hear from them now?
Your first time on the podium of Flanders, and it's the top step. That must feel pretty special.
I think it's very nice for me, incredible surprise. Not much surprise because it's the coronament to the good conditioning from now to, and I think nothing. I am very happy for me and my team, and so I am very happy.
Congratulations on the team win today. You must be pretty proud of Marta.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm proud of the team. Marta and Sofia, they did a great job today to finish it off, and it went 100% after the plan, as we wanted to, and the plan was for Marta to stay put until Kvarmund, and then she had to move, and she did it, and then finish it off like this. It's just beautiful.
You must have been pretty confident when it came down to the final three that Marta could be the one to cross the line first.
Well, perfect situation, absolutely. I mean, she's fast, so there's only a few who has a chance to beat her in the sprints, and they were not there. So the thing was, we told her on the radio, just you stay calm, you follow every move, and you're ready. And that was what happened.
Did you speak to her in the team car? Were you sending her instructions?
Sure. I mean, that's why I'm there. So I did what I thought was the best for her, and together with Carmen, but she was there today, so she was great. She was very strong, confident.
She's had a great start to the season, hasn't she? What more can we expect from her in this, certainly the early part of the season at least?
I think now the first part for her is well done. More than that, now she can rest a bit, you know, and set new objectives. Obvious, the World Championship for her is very important. But of course we have other races also we would like to win with her, because she's a winner. She can win a lot of races. So, and with the form she has this year, I just look forward to her next race.
Well, that's Bjarne Riis, who people will know, of course, as former. Is he still considered a Tour de France winner, or is
I think he's still. I think there's only one who's been officially scored out.
Yeah, okay.
Forevermore.
Anyway, Bjarne Riis popped up in women's cycling and running this team, which is an interesting departure for him. And team's obviously riding very well, upsetting the apple cart a bit, because we've expected, obviously, a new team at Trek Segafredo to maybe they've won some races, they've done okay, but maybe to do a little bit better. I don't know. And they've got Lizzie Dagnan coming back quite soon, of course. And Boels Dolmans, the team that's been dominant for so many years, and they really do appear to be missing Anna van der Breggen when she's not riding. I spoke to Chantal Blaak at the end, who seemed to be their protected rider. She did crash quite heavily. We weren't sure whether it was her or somebody else, but 3 of them crashed. 3 Boels Dolmans riders crashed early in the race. She had quite a nasty gash on her elbow, so did well to get back up and finish 5th in the end. She was 5th, wasn't she?
She was 7th in the end.
Sorry,
Chantal Blaak.
She was in that group going for 4th, but she was 7th in the end. So I spoke to her at the finish. She wasn't that happy, but here's what she had to say. Did you think you were going to come back there in the last kilometre? It looked like the gap was closing quite quickly.
Yeah, you never know, of course. In the front, they look at each other for the win, and we have nothing to lose, so we keep fighting.
And a frustrating day, though, for the team. I can see from your elbow you had a crash, but a lot of you fell down today.
Yeah, we were with the whole group together, and then we crashed in the roundabout. Well, that was in the beginning of the race, and I think we did a really good race with each other. So
a frustrating day, though?
No, not really. I think we had a good race with the team. Everyone fight really hard for it, and yeah, it's not a shame to lose from those girls, but we were riding for the win, and we hoped for more, of course.
Is it difficult for your team, who've been so dominant for so many years, to perhaps not be winning quite so frequently now? Is that a difficult thing to adjust to?
Well, I actually think we had already a lot of results, so we are not frustrated at all.
The Cycling Podcast Féminin is supported by Science in Sport. Science in Sport, fueled by science.
Thank you very much to Science in Sport for supporting the Cycling Podcast Féminin. You can get 25% off all your Science in Sport products at the website scienceinsport.com using the code at the checkout SISCP25. Now, you may remember at the Women's Tour last year, some of you sent in questions for the Canyon SRAM riders. Canyon SRAM are also sponsored by Science and Sport. We didn't get a chance at the Women's Tour to put these questions to them. However, I met up with the... What are you laughing about?
Well, because when you said that, I thought, hang on a minute, did we ever do that?
No, we didn't. That's why I did it about a week ago. I went to meet up with them, and I managed to put some of your questions. So we'll hear some of the answers to those questions in the next few episodes of the Cycling Podcast Féminin, starting now. So the first question for Canyon SRAM comes from Gillian Clark. Thanks very much for your question, Gillian. Gillian asks, during winter training in the build-up to starting the season, if, and it's maybe a big if, you feel that you need to lose a bit of weight to get to optimal race weight, how do you fuel whilst on training rides? For example, do you take water only in your bidons? Do you do fasted rides? That's Gillian Clark's question to Canyon SRAM.
Hi, my name is Alexis Ryan and I race for Canyon SRAM. I do fasted ride no more than once a week. It's important to not do it too many times per week because it's quite a big stress on your body. That's the only ride that I would ever do in a depleted state. Everything else, you're trying to get a training stimulus from it. So if you have a 6-hour ride, you need to eat during your 6-hour ride. Or even don't try and do 3 hours without eating. Like, it's not doing your body any good.
So thank you very much again to Science and Sport, and thanks to Canyon SRAM as well for allowing me to put some of the sports and tradition questions to their riders.
And also thank you to the people who wrote the questions and then waited about a year to hear the answer.
Hopefully they're still listeners of the Cycling Podcast.
Of course they are. So we heard before the break there from Chantal Blaak, who wasn't very happy, and I don't think it's a very comfortable place to be for a team that has kind of had it all its own way in the past, to become a sort of just one of many. That's not really a comfortable place to be. So you can't really, you can understand why she wouldn't be too happy. And I guess the return of Anna van der Breggen at the Ardennes Classics coming up will be very welcome, because you would imagine that she will be a favourite, if not the favourite, for those races. Who else did you speak to at the finish, ladies?
We also spoke to the other 2 podium finishers, Annemiek van Vleuten and Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig. And it was, you'll hear from them now anyway, but Annemiek saying how she was happy with third last year, disappointed with second this year, and that's often the way, isn't it? That's the cruelty of a podium.
Annemiek, it's hard to know whether to say congratulations or commiserations after a second place. How do you feel with that?
Last year I was super happy with third place. I really celebrated that one. At the moment I'm a bit disappointed. But I think I'm also proud of my team and on myself. I tried everything. I went full gas on the paddlework, and I think it was just not, the race didn't suit me so well. Like I was one of there were not so many girls like me that really like a hard race on every climb. There were too many teams that would like to have a conservative race to be there in the final. And then it's hard to drop girls like Bastianelli. So when I arrived on the top of the Paderberg, we went all out together with Cecilie Uttrup. And then I saw that Bastianelli was also there, and yeah, you know it will be very hard.
Do you think the weather played a part in that then? Do you think if it had been a more Flandrian day that you might have had a better chance of a harder race?
Yes. I don't like it so much, the Flandrian weather, but it just sometimes makes the race hard. But to give you an idea, like last year I finished here with 200 watts average and today with 160. So yeah, it's a big difference. And then in the end, then in the last hour, yeah, the bar is still fresh. So when I saw that on my gun, I was like, yeah. I felt like maybe I feel super good. But I also saw like the average watts were not so high.
And yet this is the closest that you've come to the win since 2011. So it must be bittersweet, I guess, at this stage in your recovery, really. You should still be recovering from knee injury, from knee surgery.
Yeah, and I know that's a good thing of like the Spring Classic. There's more to come. It's not finished yet. So I think we should take confidence out of this race and just bring the next Ardennes week is a really big target of me. And yeah, they're also, I hope there are more girls. Anna van der Breggen will be back. She also doesn't like conservative race, so we'll see.
It has been a long time. How are you, ladies?
Yes, very well, thank you.
I'm so done, but how crazy is this race? You know, it's just... I actually didn't, I mean, especially on the Quaremont, it was crazy. I mean, I also enjoyed. I was going full gas up Padersburg, but the Quaremont, but you can just, you just hear them screaming, like you can't hear yourself thinking. It's just, and you're like, me, I go, and even though it's pain and you have like acid and both and like up to here, but you just one more, and then you're on top, and then they go full gas, and then round. But it was so cool. It was so cool, and like I was fresh because the whole team was working, hard the whole day. I mean, and then getting dropped but coming back again, one more pull to the front. How crazy is this? Like the team were doing such a good effort, like and that when you have the whole team backing you up like that, you just, now it's my turn, I put the hammer down, but it was so cool. The atmosphere was so cool, and it's also about not only the girls did a crazy effort today, but it's also about the Swannies who do the massage. It's about the mechanics. The bike was excellent. Everything was ching ching ching, and the sports director guiding me over the radio, motivating me all the time. So it's just giving him a podium back is like, woo! It's so cool.
Do you have mixed emotions today? Because it's a wonderful result, obviously, and a very esteemed podium to finish on, the best that you've had here. But when you're in that 3-woman break, then you've got to dream of second, you've got to dream of first. So to finish third, is it bittersweet?
Yeah, I mean, in a moment you believe like, maybe I can win, you're like, but then, also, yeah, but finishing on a podium is pretty special. And yeah, of course, when you're there and when you're us three, you're like, you can taste the victory, you can, but I'm happy with the result.
And the way you achieved the result as well, we've seen you a few times this season now really attacking on the climbs and showing a growing strength there, I think. Do you feel that you're developing as a rider in that sense?
Definitely. And, being able to animate the race is just so cool. Like, the energy you get from going full gas and just being in front of the race, it's crazy. You just you have that confidence, and you have that people are cheering, and that's just, can't really describe it. That's what it's all about, having that feeling and being there and not just sitting in, but trying to do something. That's cool. That's racing. That's what we like.
That was Annemiek van Vleuten and Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig. And just a quick word on Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, because whenever I saw her cross the line, she was visibly gutted with her finish, and it's always so difficult when you're in a 3-woman sprint. Rose and I, we were talking about this afterwards, weren't we? When you're pretty much guaranteed a spot on the podium, to finish third is bound to be disappointing because you didn't further capitalise on that fantastic position. So she was really disappointed, or looked very disappointed. And for her then to walk into that mix zone and speak to the journalists the way that she did, to put on essentially that performance that she did, to be so full and brimming of excitement about the race, I think speaks of such a level of professionalism from her. I'm just constantly impressed by the whole package that she is as an athlete, as a performer, what she brings to women's cycling. And I think that kind of thing should be noted, because we often as journalists have a little moan amongst ourselves if an athlete maybe isn't very forthcoming in interviews.
I could have told her 10 kilometres out she was going to finish third.
Yeah. Oh, you
it's so
man.
easy from
Sorry.
the sideline.
Like kicking a puppy.
Well, okay, but it's funny because it shows how her expectations of herself have changed as well, because remember, after the course when she was away for a while and got caught, but contributed a lot to the race, but didn't get a podium there. She was nevertheless very happy with that, and all of a sudden now a podium in a Women's World Tour race is leaving her frustrated and disappointed. So she's got a big result in her, but it's a bit...
2 podiums this year.
Yeah, I know, but it just needs to be, you were talking about the racing needs to be harder for Annemiek van Vleuten. It needs to be a certain type of race, I think, for her, doesn't it? I mean, when the road goes up, she's very good. There are just so few women's races where that sort of climbing ability is really rewarded. You hope that there will be races where she does get a chance to convert that talent she has into a big win. Maybe Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Amstel Gold or something. Maybe one of those races, or Flèche Wallonne.
I'll tell you what, if she wins a World Tour race this year, I hope I'm on the finish line for that, because that will be quite a moment.
Keep your recorder running for that one.
Yeah.
We've been joined by the pronunciation police, who was getting a bit of a hard time earlier about your Dutch pronunciation. Rob, would you like to defend yourself?
I would like to defend myself, because I know how to pronounce Dutch names I'm talking to me normal accent now, aren't I? Sorry, I've just done 7 hours. I learned to pronounce Dutch names in Belgium, where they speak proper Dutch, and they don't do silly R's and G's and stuff like that.
That kind of doesn't make sense.
In not Holland, though. That doesn't make sense.
Of course you can. Be careful what you're saying. We're in Flanders here.
You can't say it's proper Dutch, can you?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to stick up for my brethren here. Thank you very much.
Her brethren, honestly. It's double Dutch to me. Anyway, that was nice to be joined by you, Rob. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Val. Thank you,
Al.
A voice, that's not an accent familiar to Cycling Podcast Féminin listeners, but the voice certainly is. He introduces the show every month. Thanks, Rob.
But not in his natural accent. That's the thing. Everyone will be like, is this Rob Hatch? Doesn't sound anything like Rob Hatch.
Doesn't sound like
Kelly Rob Hatch.
When the mask slips.
Went for a bike ride the other day. No one knew.
See, all is doing proper northern, not northern,
Anyway, we've had a splendid time at the Tour of Flanders, haven't we? Where will we be next, I wonder? Well, I'm going to be at Brabantse Pijl, where there's a women's race. Before then, I'll be at Paris-Roubaix, but sadly still no women's race at Paris-Roubaix. Maybe I'll speak to ASO there, who have suggested or hinted that there might be a women's Paris-Roubaix sometime in the future. Maybe I'll ask them about that there. But until next month, thank you very much, Orla.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to the Cycling Podcast Féminin, supported by Rapha, celebrating the sport and producing the finest cycling clothing since 2004.